Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nicole from the Institute of Banking and Finance, and we are delighted that you are able to join us for this IBF Masterclass, jointly organized with Momenta, on building a coherent leadership culture for a hybrid work environment. We're glad to have with us today Kevin Chan, Managing Partner of Leadership Solutions for Momenta, to share his insights on the leadership formation, ecosystem, and culture. After his presentation, he will also take questions from the audience via the Q&A function. Before I invite Kevin to speak, for those who may be unfamiliar with IBF, allow me to do a very brief intro on IBF and the resources we have to help professionals in the financial industry. IBF was established by MES in 1974 as a training provider to provide functional training for the financial industry. Since then, our role has evolved into one of standard setting for financial services sector skills and competencies. In August 2018, our mandate was expanded to cover career advisory and job matching functions for the financial services sector. We were also appointed as the Jobs Development Partner for the financial services sector last year by the Jobs Development Council, and now oversee both skills and job development in the financial industry in Singapore. Here's a quick look at our services and how we support the industry across training, recruitment, and workforce transformation. You can find out more about our services and connect with us on any of these areas via our website. The enhanced course fee subsidies, which are part of MES's support package to encourage companies to send their employees for training and upskilling, will continue to be in place until 30th June this year. Training costs under IBF recognized programs will be at 80% for trainees below the age of 40, while remaining at 90% for trainees above the age of 40, before going back down to pre-crisis levels starting from July this year. Training allowance grant support will also be in place to encourage companies to continue sending their staff for training till June, so there's no better time to train than now. You can find more details on the enhanced training support on our website. You can find the list of eligible training programs on the IBF program finder on our website as well. In addition, IBF will also be supplementing the commercial training available with free webinars during this period to support the training needs of the industry. Financial professionals can also tap on the Learn at IBF mobile learning app for bite-sized learning at your own leisure. All these are complimentary and accorded with CPD hours. And that concludes my short intro. I'm going to hand over the time to Kevin. Over to you.
Thank you very much there, Nicole. So good afternoon, everybody. Very nice to be with you this afternoon. Let me just get my screen share set up, and there we go. Can you see my screen share? Is it all good? It says participants can now see your application. So
yes, can see.
Great. Okay, so during this afternoon's webinar, the idea is that it should, now I'll probably talk for about 45 minutes to 50 minutes, but during that time, there's a couple of points where I'd love to get input from you guys. So we're going to use Mentimeter. So those of you who are not familiar with it, if you've got a cell phone or another device, I'll flash up a link later and you can interact that way. So probably about 45 minutes to 50 minutes, and then we'll open up for Q&A. In the meantime, please feel free to drop your questions as I go along in the chat. If I can answer it then, I will. Otherwise, we'll address it at the end. Yeah, so a little bit of introduction. I have been involved with leading teams, doing a bit of training on leadership for about 20 years now. Some people say I look a bit younger than I am, which I'm very pleased about. Anybody who says that in the chat, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. Especially since now, I think this is a moment of it, in Singapore where we can celebrate. Hey, we can all meet up in groups of 10 starting from the 29th. So, just before I start the session proper, a big round of applause to all of us who've done very well to get COVID sort of under control, and we can meet up in groups of 10. So for all, a lot of us here with IBF, so we all know what shares to buy, right? Which restaurants and that to go and we know their performance is going to start improving. Anyway, so the other thing that is continuing to be an issue continuing to be a reality in our world today is hybrid working environments. There are lots of studies that have been coming out that even though people are able to go back to working in the office, it's a little bit like once you've tasted, you've been eating kampong durian the whole time, and then you taste Mao Shan Wang and you go like, I'm not sure I can go back to kampong durian. So a lot of us actually are finding the benefits of working in a hybrid environment. We don't have to go through that. We all know the benefits as well as the downsides, right? So there are lots of, if we're going to talk about leadership, coherent leadership culture and that kind of thing, I'll build it out a little bit more later. It's got to be built on a leadership philosophy that will apply itself well despite our surroundings, despite the things that are happening around us, the differing situations. So this was a Harvard Business Review article. CNA just last week, no, 21st of March, so that's 3 days ago, talked about core skills that leaders need to have in this post-pandemic world. Forbes magazine as well. Human Resources magazine talks about top hybrid work trends. So you can go off and do a bit of research into this. But what I want to share with you today is a leadership philosophy. We talk about coherent leadership framework or culture. Basically, it's something where if we've got a core leadership philosophy that works, then that works across situations. And that there might be a little bit of adjustment we need to make, but the core values stay the same. Okay, so this is where I promised you we'll go to a bit of interaction. So if you go to menti.com and put in that code, okay, menti.com, and the code is 73496455. I'll just make sure it's up. Yeah, it's up. So the question there I've got for us is, there'll be two questions actually. One is to think about the worst leader you've ever had. Okay, so you can think all the way back to primary school days if you want, preferably not a manager you currently have. So think about the worst leader you have. What did they do and how did you respond? Okay, so if you go to the menti.com, use that code, or you can, I think it's probably a little bit difficult to put in this link. Let's try and copy this link and paste it in the chat for all of you. Here we go. Yeah, so that link is in the chat as well for everyone. Go ahead, heartless robot. Insecure. Yeah, insecure leader. So you disengaged, didn't review work in a time-sensitive manner. Micromanage. Man, that comes up so often. Unable to make hard decisions. Yeah, great. Micromanaging here again. Irresponsible leader. So sort of leave you to your own devices, right? Sort of, helicopter boss, if you like. Avoid communication. Did not provide no decisions, no vision. Kick you under the bus. Yeah, I like that. I mean, not that I like doing that, but it's a great picture. Hallucinated problems that did not exist. Try to reason, but I think there's some insecure. Okay, so yeah, an insecure leader. Just push without considering circumstances. I'm in. Yeah, keep pushing. Not diagnosing what you need, not seeing what you need, not forever shouting, just like this picture here, right? Do not stand up for the team. Micromanaging again. Wow. Okay. That's come up quite a few times. Poor communication, sometimes lack of communication. Scream when you're upset. Yeah. So you walk away and let them. Yeah. So you were being the adult there. Micromanagement again. That's come up. Lack of EQ, not being able to read the situation. Not willing to accept different opinions. Okay, we'll just leave this for maybe 30 more seconds and then I'll go to the second question. Okay, let's go. Terror. This boss are terror one. Okay, cannot make macro decisions, no vision. Yeah, micromanager. Womanizer cheat on his wife in front of staff. Also, that's not very good. Did not accept feedback, clearly biased. Okay, we'll do 10 more seconds here. So just finish your final statement or questions, and then we'll move on to the next topic. So you can see, just checking that you are seeing the screen, yeah. Great. They felt threatened, so you had to constantly reassure them. So again, you were being the leader there and not them. Okay, no longer recognized. This thing is slowly, I'm just waiting. Team's effort, don't reward performance. Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. Now, let's switch to the positive side of the coin. My best leader, what did they do and how did I respond? So on your app, again, it's the same code. It should ask you, do you want to move to the next question? Performance-oriented, performance-oriented is going to come up later. Micromanaging as well is going to come up later as I talk a bit. Provide a listening ear. Haven't got a chance to be a good leader yet. Oh dear. Hey, come talk to Nicole. She'll point you where to send your leaders for training. Transparent, recognize staff's achievements, supportive, absolutely good, broad vision, trusted in me, caring, firm, fair, transparent. Good. Okay, listens, give freedom. What else? Think about when you were quite new at something. What was a good leader doing then when you're quite new at a task? First time doing something, a bit blur. Okay, always provide valuable interests at heart. Show empathy, accept critical views, sets clear boundaries. Okay. Lead by example, loves teaching, ability to delegate. Oh gosh. I want to read that. Reward performance, clear guidance, directions, generous buying deals at risk. It's excellent. Okay, maybe just 10 more seconds, just one more. Finish your last sentence. Humility in leadership is so important. Inclusive, integrity, inclusive, firm, but fair to all. Yeah. We do respect that in our leaders. Check in with me after 1 week on the job. Make sure I receive first month salary. Any issues? Yeah, great. Foresighted enough to ensure crisis well maintained. Yeah, great. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm just gonna stop this here because I think you'll find so we do this. Let's go close voting. So we do this this activity at the start of our workshops very often because as people are thinking about leadership, they think about what am I supposed to do? How can I be a good leader, etc. But what is a good leader? Is a good leader somebody who is very good themselves, or is a good leader measured by how well their people respond? Who gives you the pass or fail mark as a good leader? You or your team members? Right? So that's a really important distinction to think about, which is why in this activity, we're getting all of us to cast our mind back to when we were a team member. Probably we still are team members in some respects, and how we are responding to our leaders. Because that is how your team members are looking at you. Okay, so this is a great exercise to just put us in that frame of mind of thinking of leaders. How do we, when we think about a leadership culture, how do we build one? Okay, so it starts organizationally or internally, personally yourself. It starts with the why. Why are you being a leader? Are you being a leader because you got promoted, you got higher pay? Are you a leader, you exercise leadership so that your people do all the right things so that your goals are met? Or is it the other way around? Am I here to be served or am I here to serve? Am I a leader and my leadership decisions, activity, conversations are about people serving me? Or am I here to serve the people that I work with, my team members, so that they all do better, so that the team does better, and at the end of the day, I do better as well. But my focus is on serving my team members. So let's see what a few great leaders of our time and some slightly before our time have said about this conundrum. At the end of the day, if you dig down the why of every leadership activity you do, it comes down to this question. Am I here to be served or am I here to serve? Okay, so Nelson Mandela, we all know this very famous guy, says, for to be free is not merely to cast off, sorry, I can't do the accents, cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. He was fighting, sure, for his own freedom, but also primarily the freedom of others. Mahatma Gandhi, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Winston Churchill, we make a living by what we get, sure, or we make a life by what we give. Jesus, whoever wants to be great must become a servant. Whoever wants to be first among you, firstly must be a slave. Martin Luther King Jr., everybody can be great because anyone can serve. So being great is equated to serving. You don't need to have a college degree, you don't need to, all these other things in order to serve. And Ken Blanchard, so we are the Blanchard partners in several territories around Asia Pacific, and this is what he says about leadership. Servant leadership is all about making the goals clear, then rolling your sleeves up and doing whatever it takes to help people win. In that situation, they don't work for you, you work for them. Right? So this idea of servant leadership, of as a leader, my role is to serve the people I'm working with, is something we talk about, but sometimes as we go through the activities of being a leader, it's easy to forget because we live in a culture that does not, for the most part, function like this. So as leaders, we need to have this internal metronome or internal compass, if you like. Hey, in this conversation I'm having, who am I serving here? And that's something that if I want to leave you with anything after this 45 minutes, that's what I'd love to leave you with, that internal compass. So servant leadership is adapting your priorities, decisions, and style based on the needs of the people that you lead. So this is not soft, mamby-pamby, like, okay, like everything also can sort of leaders. Just now, some of you talked about your best leaders being ones who are firm, but fair. And that is what a servant leader is, because that is the best way they can serve their whole team. I once had to fire somebody, and it wasn't an easy thing to do, but it was the best thing for that person. 2 weeks later, the person rang up and said, "Hey, Kevin, can I get coffee with you?" So we got coffee, and then they thanked me, not because it was so terrible working for me, but they thanked me because my firing them pushed them out of an area that they were never going to be good at. And actually firing them was difficult for me, but a service to them. So we start off with this foundational philosophy of servant leadership. As a leader, we are here to serve the people we work with, to help them be successful. Okay, so that's the why. Building this leadership culture, whether it's organizationally or whether it's internally, as a person with an integrated worldview, right? It's a little bit like building a house. Okay, so why are we building this house? Is it a temporary accommodation? Go camping in Pulau Ubin. Then, okay, that will decide how we construct the house. Is it going to be something that will last forever, like City Hall, built with big pieces of stone and that? Is it a Bukit Timah bungalow? Is it a HDB flat? How many people are going to live there? Okay, all this is like the why. And then the what of building a house. When you have a house, what are things the house needs? Roofing, doors, windows, mirrors, kitchen, all flooring, all this kind of stuff. So we've identified 7 assets that make up leadership, the what of leadership. Core values and mindset. What is this person's core value system? What is the, do they have a growth mindset? Do they have a fixed mindset? Natural gifts and strengths. What are their personality? What's a personality like? What are their behavioral preferences? What are some of the natural giftings that people have? Emotional intelligence. Are they self-aware about how the emotions are going, how they're feeling? Relational intelligence. Are they aware of what's happening outside them, around them, the sort of emotions that happen? We like to think that we make decisions intellectually, but 90% of the time we make decisions emotionally. And so as a leader, it's really important to be able to read that, what's happening in yourself, affecting how you are acting, how you're behaving, also what's happening in the people around you. affecting how they are behaving. Okay, and then part of that is learning agility. Is this leader able to learn new things? The new literacy, the new standard of literacy is not how well you can read or write. The new standard of literacy is how well you can learn, unlearn, and relearn, because things are changing so fast. So as a leader, that learning agility is a really important part of really important asset. Functional competencies, universal leadership competencies are all skills that people have. Functional, so we've broken up these skills area. So the first 5, it's not so much skills based, it's a lot deeper than skills. It's understanding, awareness, ability, innate ability. Some of these things we were born with. Some of these things we can develop. And then the competencies are skills that we can develop. They're broken up into 2 areas. Functional relates to competencies to do with your job role or your industry. So if you're in the banking industry, do you know the IBF standards? Do you know the MAS guidelines? Do you know all your KYC procedures? Do you know that kind of stuff to lead in that industry? And then there's the universal leadership competencies that apply across industry. As long as you're working with people, these apply. Conflict management, team, running a team, tasked leadership, etc. Okay, so when we build this house of a coherent leadership culture, the first thing we've got the foundations. What is this house made for? And then we've got the various parts of the house, the various leadership assets. And then the way we build the different parts of the house, very often we zoom into training. Okay, so I believe some of us here are in L&D on training, which is why you're at this webinar. When we think about, okay, develop leadership, develop whatever, we jump straight to training. But actually, before we go there, I know that's the most natural direction to go, and that's what we do as a business. But there are these other modalities with which we can use to build the components of a leader, our 7 assets, on the foundation of servant leadership. So we start to see how this picture, this building blocks of this house of a leadership culture is coming together. And it really is a house. Because if you think of your organization as a house, we've got the winds that come, we've got governmental rules and regulations. You know, these are all the external factors that affect every bank, or that affect every insurance agency, probably in the country. Then we've got the economic cycles that affect everybody, right? So what sets your organization apart, your house apart, is the structure of your house. And very much so, that is the leadership culture that you build for your organization. And that, you know, the other way it's really true is that you build the house, you live in it. What kind of a house do you want to build it? Do you want to live in? So sometimes you grab training from here, training from there. Oh, this one, my uncle has this training program, very good. This one I heard from somebody, very good. This one got discount. And then you put together this house that one side looks like a Chinese pagoda, the other side looks like a Scottish castle, the other side looks like, and it's a bit weird. It's not coherent. So what we like to encourage people to think about is, as you think about building this house of leadership, to think about how it's coherent, internally integrated. And so for us, because we are partners with Blanchard, the core thing, the core model that we use is the SL2 model. And I'll show you how this all comes together. It's the most widely taught leadership model in the world. So if you Google SL2 model, you'll see pictures like this. There, you know, it's been around since 1969, to be honest, which is before I was born. And so there have been a few different variations. It's a chosen leadership framework at 2/3 of Fortune 500 companies, which means the most successful companies in the world. 2/3 of them use this model. More than 5 million leaders have been trained, 150,000 do it every year. So it's been validated, I told you, it's been used since 1969, and it's been used in 35 countries, translated into 15 languages. So across culture, There are some programs that are very American, and some of SL2, some of the examples are American, but once the way we've got it is when we run it in Singapore, we use Singapore examples. But it's valid, it works cross-culturally. And this is the crux of what it is. The core of the SL2 model deals with task leadership, helping people, leading people in the various tasks that they do. If you think about your leadership of your teams or your leadership of individuals or people, you can break it down into individual tasks, right? The sum total of these tasks, plus a little bit of extra coffee here and nasi lemak there, all these together form your overall leadership of the person. So your task level leadership is a big part of it. And so this gives us a way to diagnose our people's needs. Remember, we talked about servant leadership, which means adjusting my leadership style based on what my people need. So what do my people need? How do I measure what my people need? Okay, so the SL2 model gives us two measures, competence and commitment. And then the simplest way to apply it, the smallest, let's apply it under the smallest sort of scenario first, at a task level. So how competent is somebody at this task, and how committed are they at this task? So most people start at D1. Think of a fresh grad, joins your group, joins your team. Competence, not very good. Maybe they came out of university, they've got some educational background, but to actually be competent at doing the job in your organization, in your team, probably not high. But the commitment is quite high because, wow, I got this job, wow, so cool. I'm working for UOB, or I'm working for DBS. When you go home and tell their parents are very happy, right? So most people start off at D1 at any particular task. High commitment, low competence. And then as they get their hands dirty working on this task, they move to D2, which is low to some competence. So they start to learn a little bit. And the commitment drops. This is quite interesting because this is sort of where the rubber hits the road. And you've seen this happen so many times. Somebody goes, wow, I'm very excited about this job. Start doing it. Hey, actually, it's not as easy as, oh, what's so difficult? Actually, is this for me? Did I sign up for the right thing? Did I choose the right career? All this kind of doubts come in. You can apply it to any skill you learn. I've got a friend who applies this to when they have a new helper in the house, right? The new helper comes in, wow, no, new family, a bit scared, but a bit excited what's happening. But how to cook for this family, how to clean, how to, don't know. So they apply SL2 to working with the helper. There are people that apply SL2 to volunteer situations like church volunteer situations or social clubs and workplace, obviously. So D2 is sort of the bottom of that, of where people are at. The competence still quite low, and now the commitment is taken a hit. Okay, so very often what happens is, if a D2 is a make it or break it stage. So this is where some people quit. Cannot, this is not for me, they leave. But those that stay on move into D3, where their competence is growing. Now they've kept at it for a while. They're like, hey, okay, I can do it now. They're getting better, more skilled at it. And then the commitment is increasing as well. So the two components of commitment are confidence and motivation, right? So very often when they hit D2, their confidence takes a hit because, wow, it's not as easy as I thought. It's really difficult, man. The confidence drops. Because confidence drops, motivation may drop. If motivation stays there, wow, this person, yeah, I can do it. Then they survive into D3. So their motivation has carried them into D3 and they're getting more competent. And then they move into, so in D3, very often that confidence is still slightly lacking. Commitment is there, motivation is there, which is how they made it D3. But the confidence is going, can I really do this, man? Yeah, sort of, okay, it's happening. So as a manager, what do we do with them then? As a leader, what do we do then? And then if we work with them successfully, they go into D4 where they are high competence, high commitment. And this is where we want all our people. Okay, so the point of this slide is to give us these two lenses with which to look at our people. Because if we want to lead our people well, the SL2 model says servant leadership is about providing people the leadership that they need, not providing people the leadership that we prefer. Okay, the leadership style that we prefer. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about providing people the leadership style that they need. So what do they need? What they need depends on where they are on a particular task, on their competence and commitment. Okay, so this is about diagnosing needs. So the full SL2 course is 2 days, and we go through what I'm going to cover in about 10 minutes, and I've covered about half of it. And we take 2 days to really stretch it out, and we talk about micromanagement. What happens with micromanagement? We talk about the opposite of micromanagement is when a leader sort of abandons their people. People feel a bit like lost, right? So just now in the responses that you had in the best leader, some of them said actually a firm leader, someone who gave clear direction, someone who gave clear whatever, that's really good as well. But if you're doing too much of that to somebody who's high competence, then they see that as micromanagement. So micromanagement or a leader that abandons people, it's not wrong in itself. It's just that those activities are performed on the wrong people in the wrong task. So what styles, how do we match our leadership styles with our people's needs? So S1 matches D1. If you remember just now, D1 was somebody who is high commitment, excited, new at things, low competence, don't know where to go, don't know what to do. And then, so we talk about a directive leadership style, which is high directive, low supportive behavior. Okay, so there are two sets of leadership behavior that the SL2 model talks about: directive behavior, supportive behavior. So directive behavior is not necessarily mean, scolding. Sometimes it's got a bad rep, but the high directive behavior simply means providing clarity, providing clear instructions, providing structure, providing feedback, setting timelines. All those are directive behaviors. Supportive behaviors are behaviors where you want to draw out from the person, asking questions, encouraging them, sharing some of your own stories, maybe telling, giving that sort of softer side of leadership. So that's supportive behavior. So somebody who is in D1, new at a task, excited, but don't know what to do, they need more directive behaviors and low supportive behaviors. Somebody who is low in competence and low in commitment, that D2, that make it or break it sort of stage, they need both high directive and high supportive behavior. Somebody who is now relatively competent, but their confidence not quite there, right? Just now we talked about D3, they need S3, supporting behavior, which is highly supportive, low directive behavior. And then S4 talks about, S4 style leadership is good for somebody who is D4 at their task, who is high competence, high commitment. Basically, they can go off and they can do it. They know what to do. They're motivated, committed to doing it. Then they don't need so much leadership input. So most of us are good at various parts of this. Like when I did, we usually start off with a self-assessment. So my self-assessment, naturally, I approach every situation and I apply S3. That's my style. I like to ask questions. How? So how? Draw things out. And that's where a lot of current leadership teaching is going. However, that's not the only valid leadership style. That works for a certain, it's like using a hammer for everything, right? A hammer is quite good for a whole bunch of things, but there are things which you cannot use a hammer for, or it's subpar. So we start off looking at, okay, what's my natural style? And then before I work with somebody, before I apply, okay, all these 4 styles to somebody, take a step back first and think about what is the goal, what task are we talking about now? And then what is this person's competence and commitment on this task? Then we can consciously think about what my leadership style is towards them. Okay, so this is the core SL. If you even take this away from this 45 minutes, and the next time, just before you have a conversation with somebody, just think about these few questions. What task are we talking about? What's their competence and commitment on this task? And therefore, what do they need from me? and then you provide what they need. Based on their needs, not based on your personal preference. That's servant leadership operationalized. Okay, and then here's the cool bit. We start off with this SL2 model at the task level leadership, personal one-on-one sort of level leadership, which is what is in the sort of flagship SL2 course. And then we can also apply it to teams. So there's team leadership, which we apply the SL2 model to as well. So what does it look like when we are diagnosing a team, not just an individual? And then what does it look like when we apply these leadership styles to a team rather than just an individual? And then this is applied to change management as well. What are people's concerns as they go through change, the stages of concern? And then how do we meet their concerns at these very predictable stages actually? So the research shows that these stages that people go through is predictable. Everybody goes through this. Every organization, people and organizations go through these stages of concern whenever any change is announced. So how do we plan the response to it? Then there's self-leadership, which is, it takes SL2, which is from a leader's perspective, and then it applies it to a team member's perspective. Okay, so how can a team member, knowing this SL2 model, then be a better team member? How can they self-identify the leadership they need? And then how can they ask for it? So we've seen this happen in some really powerful examples where, very, very strong leader, and this team member who's just, personality-wise, they're really nice, very high C personality, very nice, very, okay, I'll try and accommodate everything. And it ends up sometimes getting run over because they're so nice. So this really helped them to think about their needs and articulate it clearly. And then the leader was able to provide the leadership that they needed. So coming back to this building blocks of our house, right? So these are the four we talked about. The courses with the IBF icon on them are IBF certified, they're FKS certified. So you get all those lovely subsidies that Nicole talked about before. Sign up quick, otherwise before they run out. Sorry, I've got there's a little bit of sales in here too. There's a legendary service, which talks about serving as an organization, serving the wider world around us. There's coaching essentials, which talks about how do we integrate coaching activities into our day-to-day leadership. 1 minute. This 1 Minute Manager is a best-selling book by Ken Blanchard. It became a course now called Management Essentials. Curiosity and candor. So this is conversational capacity. It's a really hot topic where currently, actually, if anybody here is from BJB, we are doing a workshop on that. So yeah, let us stay tuned for that. And what we're going to zero in a little bit on today is this final one, which is leading virtually, because that's sort of the hot topic around currently. Okay, let me take a quick break and look at this couple of questions. What is truly a servant leader? Someone who claims to be one. Is it acceptable behavior that throws people under the bus as part of leadership? No. So yeah, the first question. Do I answer live here? Here we go. Sure. So is somebody considered a servant leader if they throw somebody under the bus? No. So a servant leader will not throw somebody under a bus, but they will make the person aware of the consequences of their actions. And they will also sometimes impose the consequences of that person's actions on them. Like I give you an example of me firing somebody, and we had a few warnings. We talked about how they can improve that, and really in the end, it just came out that they were not motivated to continue. It wasn't the right thing for them, and so we said, it wasn't throwing them under the bus. it ended up being the best decision for them, even though at that time it wasn't easy. Okay, second question here. Which leadership style would best apply for a staff who is low in competency, lacks proactiveness and motivation, dislikes taking instructions? Yeah, so I mean, if you apply those two lenses, right? Low competency. So let's go back on here. Okay, low competence. So it's either D1 or D2, because those are two are low competence. D3, D4 moving to high competence, and lacks proactiveness, lacks motivation, etc. So that's the D2. And D2 is, so what leadership style do you need to apply? Is here, S2 leadership style. So just a note about this, where we've got the word coaching there. The image really is a sports coach. It's not an executive coach. So a sports coach, think about, you know, a team maybe not doing very well in the first half. They come into the locker room and the coach is yelling, "Okay, you know, next second half, I want you to stand here. I want you to do that. I want you to mark this person. I want you to do all these things differently." And then what does he do before they go out? He said, "You can do it. No, you're the best team I've ever trained. Remember, at the start of the season, you were really hopeless. Now you are less hopeless." Look, you know, so he gives all this supportive encouragement, asking questions. So somebody who's at, what you just diagnosed there is somebody who's at D2. Somebody who's at D2 needs S2 style leadership, which, to be honest, is the most intensive, most high needs, if you like, leadership style. And so what the other benefit that the SL2 model gives us is that if we can identify people who are S4 at their tasks, it's not that we ignore them, but we don't have to spend so much time with them, even though it's fun too. It's more enjoyable to hang out with people who are positive and, "Yeah, great, I can do this, can do that, yeah, cool," right? It's much more fun. But actually, the people who need our leadership input are the people who are at D2 on their tasks. And that's how we help them out of it. Some people will not be helped out of D2. And for some people, maybe leaving is the best choice for them. But as far as we can, as leaders, we want to help them to progress from D2 to D3 and then on to D4. The more people we have in our organizations who are our teams, who are D3, D4, the more productive our organizations are. Okay, great. So I was going to jump into the second mentee that we're going to do. And okay, let's get that on the screen. And so this really is shifting gears a little bit from the SL2 model. And then we're going, how, now that we've got this SL2 model and concept and philosophy, how do we apply that to leading in a virtual world? Because like I was saying, if your model is solid, it stands the test of time. SL2 model has stood the test of time since 1969, 35 countries, 15 languages, etc., etc. So how do we then apply this model to virtual leadership? Okay, so if you go to menti.com, and let me start this Menti as well. Give me a minute. In the meantime, if you've got any other questions, do pop it in the Q&A. I'll respond to it. I see there's a couple of questions there. I'll start this Menti. Ah, here we go. Man, you're very fast. Present. And I'll share this. So go ahead and answer these questions while I answer the Q&A questions on the side. How to address a team member who is not open to feedback. Once you feed, yeah, I didn't need to know the he or she, but she gets emotional and defensive. I think as a leader, we've got to try and get their hearts open. Somebody who's not open to feedback, so i.e. closed, right? They've got a closed attitude. There's some reason why it's closed. And as a leader, I think we need to find out what those reasons are and address them. Very often it's something around trust. Do they trust you as a leader? Okay, look, the word trust just popped up there. Do they trust us as a leader so that they're open to our feedback? So later, actually, I'm going to talk about trust very briefly. There's also a workshop on trust. And in leadership, okay, if you go to Cycle and Carriage, right, you're in a Mercedes showroom in Singapore, no money, no talk. Okay, you go in there wearing slippers and t-shirts and shorts, torn t-shirt. If you've got money, no problem. Okay, you can go in there wearing a suit, no money, no use. In leadership, no trust, no talk. Right? You can have all the cool, best leadership techniques or whatever, but if they don't trust you, then so I think that's something we need to look at. How do you rebuild that trust where they will be open to your feedback, where they're not being defensive. Recording of this webinar, I think so. I think maybe Nicole can answer that question better than I can. Yeah, so go ahead, Nicole. Okay, so let's give another maybe 10 seconds for this. Just finish putting in your last thought, your last response. Discipline, flexibility, flexible, accountability, lonely, challenging, time-saving, partially disconnected, great, isolated, boring, isolation, boundary, accountable, work-life balance. So the bigger words are the words that occurred more often. Okay, so there are some, the biggest positive is flexibility, looks like. Accountability. So does that mean working remotely, it's difficult to have accountability? I'm guessing that's what that means. Accountable here as well, impersonal. So there's some positives, some negatives. There's quite a few isolation here. Tough, isolated, time management, lonely, boring, non-visibility. So that's connected to the accountability, I think. 24/7 working, focus, discipline, etc. Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. So this puts us in a mind sort of space to talk about leading virtually. Let's come back here. So if you look through the negative, how do you be a leader without a title? Great question. Leadership is all about influence. I have led organizations, made huge changes in organizations, and I just got brought in as he's just coming to help. No title, no nothing. But from building relationships with people, building trust, actually self-leadership, which is a workshop that we are having in April. It's in the final slide. Talks specifically about that, Kunal. No title, no, how can you exert influence? Yeah, so that we'll deal with that more fully at that workshop. Self-leadership, just keep an eye out for that. Okay, so the challenges or the difficulties that people have in working this virtual world, hybrid world and all that, really fall into these three categories. Staying motivated, right? So just now you had that accountability, sense of isolation, isolated, came up all the time, feeling of stagnation. So these are the three main problems that people face. And this is really important because before we want to think about how we lead people virtually, we need to think about what do they need, right? Because the SL2, remember SL2 lesson is that before we want to apply whatever leadership behavior, we need to diagnose the need first. So if somebody has a cut, don't need to put a cast, right? Plaster enough. Okay, so the way we address these issues in virtual leadership is helping people stay motivated. As a leader, we want to be attentive and mindful. About what? We'll have a look at that. To address this sense of isolation with people, that people feel. Okay, so firstly, we need to know that people feel isolated. They can't walk across the office and have a chat with somebody. Hang on, let me switch on my light. they can't walk across the office and have a chat with somebody. They can't meet somebody at the pantry or the water cooler and have a good chat. So people do feel isolated in this virtual environment. So the way we address that is we foster community intentionally. Last time, community used to happen in an office setting. Community happened naturally, normally, because we are social beings. But when people are working remotely, now we've got to do it a bit more intentionally. Are we doing that? Feeling of stagnation. So sometimes you're at home doing the same thing day in, day out. Are people moving ahead with their jobs, with their careers? So this is something as a leader we need to think about. How are we measuring? How are we setting expectations for their performance and their development? So being attentive and mindful, some little notes here. So this leading virtually is another full day course. So, basically we're summarizing everything to just like read the key points, the brand's essence of chicken. You don't have to eat the whole chicken. Just drink this little bottle, you get the essence of the chicken. So this is the essence of the leading virtually. Being present as a leader, how are we present when we are working with our team members? I am sometimes guilty of not being present because I multitask. Okay, where you put your camera matters. Sometimes people have a camera, I don't know where, and then they're having a meeting like this. You look at my face, we're talking like this, right? So I'm not even looking at the camera. You don't feel like, yeah, I'm looking at you. But where is your camera? Do you have your camera on? Your team members have your camera on. Is it an expectation that if you're on a call, you've got your camera on and you're looking at your camera and you're talking to the people here that you're working with? Being present, attending to questions, not multitasking. Okay, paying attention to individual differences. This is a little bit of extra, sometimes leaders need to do in this setting. How do my people like to communicate? Sometimes doing something like a DISC can be very helpful. What are your people's preference, or MBTI? So you can think of this, just some ideas that you can do as a bit of a team building, maybe. MBTI stands for Myers-Briggs Temperament Inventory. DISC is, it identifies how people like to communicate. Okay, and then as we communicate with them individually, bear that in mind. We've seen this have really powerful effect actually with people. Ask for feedback, lead with intention. So what are the intentions behind each piece of communication that you have, right? So determine firstly the goal, aim, purpose for that communication. Are we having a team meeting? Are we having catch up? Are we having a feedback? Are we having a course correction type conversation? Then what is the correct channel for this communication? Some examples, okay? So on the left-hand column, left-hand side column, you've got the various communications, maybe. I mean, there's more than this, obviously. Problem solving requiring co-creation. Which channel do you use? Urgent question and question answer, seeking quick guidance. Which channel do you use? Discuss sensitive, difficult topics. Status updates, showcasing and explaining your work. Individual catch-up, relationship building. Social team discussions. Large, are we thinking about this as leaders? What is this communication about? What's the best way to do it? So sometimes we do it subconsciously. Hey, this one cannot send email, just give them a call. But the more we're able to do this intentionally, the better. Okay, second one, foster community. Building trust. So just now we talked about no trust, no talk, right? In leadership, no trust, no talk. There's a Blanchard framework. Building trust as easy as A, B, C, D. Okay, able. Are you able to do what people are trusting you to do? Are you believable? Do you act with integrity? Are you connected? Is there rapport? What's a rapport like between you and the people you're working with? Are you dependable? When you say something, you'll do it. Be there at a certain time, you're there at a certain time. If you say, I'm going to get this to you, either you get this to them or you send them a message, If you can't, there's a good reason, send a message when it's supposed to arrive. Say, hey, I'm sorry, this is what's happened. Can I have an extra day, extra 2 days, whatever it is. So this trust is two ways. So as a leader, so firstly, as a team member, do your people trust you? Have you eroded trust by eroding any of their, how they see you in these 4 areas, their perspective of you? Secondly, do you trust your team? Right? Do you trust that they're able? Do you trust they're believable? Do you trust they're connected? Do you trust they're dependable? Now, as leaders, I've quite often run courses like this, and before I go over I say, yeah, my team not capable, my team always not dependable, my team always, it's easy to pass. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes we do work with challenging people. But as leaders, we have a little bit of extra responsibility to make it work. How do we create this atmosphere where people are building trust? Firstly, we want to build their trust in us. Secondly, from there, once they trust us, we can input into their behaviors, into their lives even. So building trust. Providing technology support. There's some people on our teams who just find it difficult working with technology, and helping them out with that will foster community. Invest in connection. So for a good example is our company, Momenta. Since we are able to do it now, we've been working remotely for the last 2 years or so. Since now, we can come back to the office a bit more. But people still like to work remotely. So everything I'm sharing with you, actually, we are practicing it in our own company. Not that we have attained it 100%, but everybody's on a journey. So are we. So on Mondays, we have a rhythm of every Monday, we'll have a team meeting in the morning. And then we have a bit of time for people to catch up with each other face-to-face, because there's some conversations that is just easy face-to-face. So we've got maybe an hour and a half between our team meeting and lunchtime. We're all in the same office area. Everybody can catch up, with whoever they need to. And then we go out for lunch. And company-based for lunch for all of us. So very nice. Thank you very much, boss. So we invest in connection and we celebrate success, positive vibes in your team meetings. Even as a leader, you might feel like the brown stuff that day, but try and put on a smile and try and have a bit of life in your meetings. You'll be amazed at once, when you set the tone and your people respond, it's really nice. Finally, accelerate performance and development. We're going to focus on not so much on activity, we're going to focus on people's output. Okay, so with just now, the word accountability came up quite a few times. In a virtual working environment, a hybrid working environment, focusing on people's activity doesn't work because you have no visibility. Visibility also was a word that was there. You have no visibility. And when you have no visibility, you tend to erode your own trust. They didn't erode your trust. You eroded your own trust. This person is talking, I'm supposed to be doing work. Don't know where they don't out shopping and doing. But who cares? If they're out shopping at 2 o'clock and then they work until 8 o'clock to get your report out for you, who cares? Right? So focus on the output. As a team leader, that's a bit of a mindset shift we all need to make. Don't worry about the person sitting there and on their computer looking that they're working. They could be on Facebook. Focus on output. Encourage self-reliance. Sometimes leaders like to stay as the everything have to check back with me. So what we're going to do here is to release people to, hey, go check with the person who has the best information, and trust our people to make good decisions. Sure, we want them to check back with us, but try and give people a little bit more leeway. Facilitate networking, so that works in with that point as well, and assist with their career development. So it sometimes can feel like when people are away from their workplace, man, nobody's noticing. Is my boss noticing that I'm doing all this hard work? People, do all this work, and then they don't send an email. Wait until 8 o'clock, 8:30, then send email. I've got timestamp 8:30. My boss think I'm working at 8:30. I don't know, right? So people do all this kind of crazy stuff because people don't, I'm not being recognized, and they're worried about the career development. So these are some things where as a leader, we can help allay the concerns of our people during this sort of a new normal. Because this is going to be normal, this hybrid working environment. Don't think about, okay, once things go back to normal, everybody go back to office, we can be like last time. So that's probably the case for travel, because travel seems to be opening up. Woo! But in terms of people working in the office or working from home, this hybrid thing is probably going to stay with us. Okay, so here's a really quick some checklists. Actually, I'm going to move into 3 other checklists here. So I'm not going to go through this, but I'll just leave this here so you can take a quick screenshot. Okay, and you can do this self-assessment. How often do I do this? Never, sometimes, often, always. Okay, next one. Practice 2 around fostering community. Do I do this? You have a few seconds to grab the screenshot if you like. And 3, 2, 1. Practice 3, accelerate performance and development. Oops, sorry. Yeah. Okay, so this is something you can go back and just do a bit of self-evaluation. Am I doing this? Which ones can I increase? Some really good, interesting, key little takeaways you can have from this session. Okay, and 3, 2, 1. I'll move on. So like I was saying, building a leadership culture in your organization is like building a house. You're going to live in this house, so might as well build a nice one, integrated, that works, that will weather the storms of economic sort of ups and downs and rules and regulations that change, and health issues and all these things. So we've got, and this is only a 45-minute webinar, so we're not going to be able to cover everything and how you do this. But each of the, we'll spend time. We've got events, training courses, consulting, engagements where we can help you put in the various building blocks, or this blueprint of what a coherent leadership culture looks like. So upcoming events in April, we've got a couple of public courses, conversational capacity and leading virtually. So leading virtually is what I talked about second half of this webinar. And then there'll be a public, so those are courses. These are full day virtual courses. And then there'll be another webinar, 1-hour webinar, 29th of April on self-leadership. So just now a question came up about, can you lead without a title? Absolutely, this is how we do it. So again, the webinar will be a sneak peek, a bit of a preview, but the full course is a 1-day course. And this is some ways you can contact me. That's my email address, my personal email. And then contact@kenblanchard.com.sg is our general. If you've got a question about signing up for public courses or that kind of thing, you can email that contact@kenblanchard. Our marketing team will get back to you. If you've got something specific about this material, or you want to talk about some in-house interventions, then please do email me personally. Otherwise, if you like, there's kenblanchard.com and leadership training. So Ken Blanchard is the global website. Leadership training is our own Singapore-based website. Lots of reading material there, lots of resources. If you prefer QR codes, those are there as well. Yeah, so I'm really love that we've all hung out here and you've listened to me talk for the last 45 minutes or so. And so we'll look at some question and answer session. We've answered some questions along the way. There's a few more here. I'll answer what I can, and those that I don't answer, I'm sorry because of time. Feel free to email me if it's something that's really itching. And I think Nicole, maybe I'll just go and address some of these questions whenever it's time and we need to close up. Just jump in and let us know, okay?
Sure, Ken.
Okay, so here, what are some tips in leading somebody really older than you? So I started leading teams from quite early. Okay, yeah, I'll tell you a story. I was maybe 24, 25. I was hired as a graduate consultant, and then I ended up being service delivery manager. I was in the IT industry at the time, serving banks actually. And then we had these engineers who were like 40, 50. They've been doing this engineering job for 30 years. And I was this 25-year-old fresh out of university, 2 or 3 years experience, having to tell them what to do. And they didn't like it. And so I had to earn their respect, I think. So part of that is standing your ground, knowing what battle do you want to fight and what battle do you not want to fight. Okay, you don't want to argue about everything. So there are a lot of things where I said, yeah, okay, you've got more experience, go ahead. No, well, yeah, I'll follow your lead. Yeah, you know. But there are some things which, no, really, it's not, they needed to follow my lead. And so when you pick the battles that you want to fight, they will notice that, okay, he's really putting his foot down on this one. And so maybe let's listen. So what we've got, that conversational capacity gives you some tools on how to handle difficult conversations like this. On how do you justify where you're going with things? How do you justify, explain your thinking, your position of things? Yeah, so that really help with leading people older than you. Another question here, any good book to recommend? Wow. So there's a book called Servant Leadership by, Taking Your Leadership to the Next Level by Ken Blanchard. I mean, it's really hard because, so this person who asked this question, right, maybe send me an email, because I don't want to fall into the trap of recommending you a book and I don't know really anything about you. So I think I need to know a little bit more about you, what you've read, where you are in your journey. Then I could recommend something that would work for you. I think Servant Leadership by Ken Blanchard is really that everything. One of the really good things we really love about the Blanchard family. So I mean, as anybody in L&D will know, there are quite a few. There's a few big leadership development companies around, and we love Blanchard. We decided to get into a partnership with Blanchard because of how integrated and coherent all their programs work. It all comes from the same basis. Servant leadership. Yeah, so I think if that's something to read up on, servant leadership is really good. And then taking your leadership to the next level is another really good one by Ken Blanchard. I think beyond that, I'll have to know a little bit more about you to answer the question fairly. Thank you for that. Servant Leadership is a good book. Yeah, so here, I think if I answer live, people can see the question. There's somebody else agrees. Thank you for agreeing. How do you call out a fellow leader on behaviors that is unbecoming of a leader? Yeah, interesting one. It depends on where they're at with, do they agree that do they realize that their behavior is unbecoming? Do they realize that they're even doing this? Do they agree that it is unbecoming of a leader to behave like this? So generally, I try and go small before escalating, right? So if you've got some sort of relationship with the person, maybe take them out for coffee and say, hey, are you aware this is happening? And if they're not, or they're in transition, they don't want to respond positively towards it, then, and if it's really affecting the organization, then you've got to escalate. Yeah, so like I say, servant leadership is not about soft, mamby-pamby, do everything, to make everybody happy. You can't do that. Servant leadership is about looking at what the needs are of the people you're working with directly, but also the organization. So somebody who's behaving in a way that's unbecoming is actually harming the organization. So even as you are dealing with them, that is what's on your mind. Your mind is not that I'm personally offended by this behavior. Your approach is, hey, this behavior is really adversely affecting the organization. Do you realize this is happening? Then if they don't agree, then you might have to escalate. Hey, oh, this is nice. Thank you. Ask 2 questions anonymously. Thank you for that. Thanks for that. Here, would servant leaders appear to be compromising and weak? Not if you do it correctly. I think, yeah, no, definitely not. I think where there's a risk of that happening is if you are having this one-on-one conversation, and in your mind you're only thinking about serving this one person, right? And then everything the person asks, okay, can everything can. But if as a leader you've got this broader view and you're looking at serving your whole team, then when one person comes to you and says, hey boss, can I take half day off? No, you take leave, it's okay. I want to serve them, but that saying yes there doesn't serve the team well, because what does that set up for the team then? Yeah, so I think servant leader, actually it's harder to be a servant leader because there are a lot of times where you have to tell one person no because it's bad for the team. I don't know if I want to answer Derek Ma's question. Derek Ma is a direct colleague of mine. Thank you, Derek. We'll have a side conversation around that. To serve or to be, okay, here we'll look at this. To serve or to be served or to serve. Ultimately, I believe as leaders, we should be served. We should serve because an employee is hired for the job, but our job is to serve them also through better remuneration based on their efforts. Okay, so especially for higher level jobs, remuneration is not a big driver. Or if it is a big driver, that person is not going to be a very good employee. There are, as a leader, I think we need to inculcate this an intrinsic, for people to see an intrinsic worth in what they're doing and to enjoy doing it, to enjoy working with the people around them. So remuneration has to be there, has to be enough. Great, absolutely, but that's not the. It shouldn't be the final, deciding factor. And yeah, unfortunately, it's a cultural shift. I think that could happen in the banking industry. I'm sorry. Yeah, but money is not everything. And so, okay, wow, I really like this question. What is your stand towards transparency in corporate leadership? That's a really good question. I think be as transparent as you can. So that's where EQ and RQ comes in, right? How much do you want to tell people that will move them in the correct direction? Because any information that people get is going to affect their emotions. The emotions is going to affect their behavior, their actions. So with the information that you release, how much of it, what's going to be the effect of that information on their emotions and therefore their behavior? There was once I was working with a struggling company. This company was in big trouble. They would have been insolvent in 3 months. From when I started working with them. So this was beyond training. So what we did was, it wasn't a huge company, but we gathered all the senior leaders and nobody had shared with them the true state of the company yet. And so I got permission and then I sat everybody down and I shared with them the true state of the company. And a lot of them had been with the company for 20 plus years. They loved the company. This was their family. This is what this was their identity. And so then I said, I understand it's going to be difficult, but are you willing to take 20% pay cut for the next 6 months? Of the 24 people there, 23 were willing. The other 2 couldn't because they couldn't afford it personally. So that was an example of where being more transparent probably than the previous managers were willing to be actually ended up being very positive. So thank you for that question. Sean, oops, let's see, answer live. If you successfully perform servant leadership within the team, but don't get recognized by senior management because they are objective driven. So actually, and this is connected to the previous question as well. If you actively, successfully perform servant leadership within your team, and this actually has been proven, has been shown in lots of different studies, your team will perform better. That's the whole point of servant leadership. It's the opposite stance from what we expect, but actually it's going to get you a better result at the end of the day. 100%. Okay, so if you actually successfully perform servant leadership within your team, your focus not on myself, my focus on helping my people succeed, all of them individually succeed, the team succeeds. How can you not be recognized as the most successful team if the other teams are not doing it? If the other teams about, hey, all of you listen to me, this is my style, or we follow my style. So your retention, your staff retention is going to go through the roof. All the other teams are having all this crazy turnover. Your team, people want to stay because that's the style of leader you are. And then also you're helping people develop in their task competency. So if it's a sales task, you're helping them develop in their competency and commitment in their sales tasks. But how can that not be successful? So if you are, my response to that is, if you really are performing servant leadership and other teams are not, you will stand up 100%. I've got a message from Nicole that we need to wrap up after that question. Sorry, Nicole, can I just, this will be quick and I love this. Auntie mentality. So the auntie mentality, the D3, no, D1 to D4, right? Most aunties are at D3. And I need to talk a bit softer because there are two aunties sitting outside the office here. And they are 100% competent at what they're doing. But sometimes, they keep coming back, hey, boss, cannot. And climb over your head and take advantage of nicer leadership style. If your auntie likes you, they will climb over fences to protect you and to help you. They won't be trying to take advantage of you. They might do it in a way that maybe you didn't expect. But I'm reading this and the picture in my head is that you're a slightly younger person and these are slightly older people, and especially auntie sort of style. My experience with that is that the aunties that I get along with, they just want to treat me as like their adopted son. And so if you build that trust with them, you help them where they're at, you don't sort of, pressure them, don't micromanage them, that kind of stuff, they're very, very happy, they'll help you out. Yeah, so that I think that's my response to it. If anyone here, so there's a couple of other, there's a couple of other questions here which we won't have time to respond to, but do drop me an email if it's pressing, and we can address it there. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, thank you, Kevin, for sharing your insights. We've now come to the end of today's session. Thank you once again for joining us. You may stay connected with us via Telegram, our mailing list, and via our website. Take care and goodbye.